PhD in human physiology with expertise in psychophysiology and behavioral neurosciences. Pakistan's pioneer to introduce psychophysiology in various institutes in mental health sector, and co-authored Pakistan's first stress evaluating tool, Sadaf Stress Scale, SSS, currently serving as an assistant professor at Department of Physiology, University of Karachi, as well as a founder of CEO of Advanced Educational Institute and Research Center, and put forward the initiative of establishing psychophysiology in Pakistan. She is currently working on psychophysiological aspects of mastectomy in breast cancer survivors as her postdoctorate, representing Pakistan academic and health sector globally with her sections as trainer internationally, as well as executive member of many scientific organizations across the globe. She won various grant awards, including HEC, IBRO, Microsoft, Government of Sindh, etc. Author of 2 full books and numerous manuals, along with lists of significant research papers. A mystic writer and well-known public speaker related to mental health, gender inequalities, health and well-being. To build up a great team in the last 16 years and promoting the necessary workshop required in a respective field, along with the funding gaps and connecting dots. With laser focus on rising responsiveness and gather like-minded people for facilitating the ideas to support the victims, survivors, emotional and psychological damage and exclusion. Welcome, Dr. Sadaf Ahmed.
Thank you, Anna, for this such elaborative introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And this is the 5th day, and you have been watching me as organizer. But today I will be taking your time a bit, and I have selected the topic of stress related to the brain health and well-being as a holistic approach to just resolve certain mysteries or untangling certain mysteries of degenerating brains. Basically, stress is one of the topics that we have been working in our lab as well. Psychophysiology Research Lab at University of Karachi and Psychophysiology Research Division or at Advanced Educational Institute and Research Center. So we have been trying to make some real-time researches starting from the evaluation of the stress, how our population is actually being exposed to different kind of daily stressors, and how these daily stressors are actually changing lifestyle, though it is like globally, but in Pakistan, we are under such economic, emotional, physical, nutritional, and certain other type of stresses that there are so many things happening in the brain and the body. So talking about the psychophysiological aspect, we always wanted to explore that how much of the stress is there, how many types of stresses are there, and how it is affecting the well-being of the human being. So I take the help of Ujala to just run my slide because we are operating from same place, so there might be some connection issues. Ujala will be playing my slides. I don't have so many slides. I have only 10 slides to show you. But there are so many things that I can discuss with you with respect to the stress and stress management. But the concept of the presentation today that we are not actually talking about, we always talk about so many molecular things. We always talk about so many things that we are doing as an invasive and non-invasive markers and how they can be identified, and they can be the diagnostic marker, and there can be the technological treatments and everything. But when we talk about the lifestyle changes, early life stress, the late life stresses, and how the brain health is the preservation of that optimal brain integrity, and how the brain as a whole is very important to maintain its integrity, its mental, motor, sensory, and cognitive function, and the absence of overt neurological disorders should be there to consider a person as well-being. So daily stresses and human aging also contribute to that and increase the burden of the brain dysfunction and neurological diseases. That is much more of a concern in neurodegenerative disorder when we particularly do that. So hope you all are actually connecting the dots and trying to untangling these mysteries, as every speaker is talking about so many things very theoretically, philosophically, and intellectually at the best of their expertise. But when we talk about stress and stress management, so it always go unmentioned, and it is still an underappreciated and under-discussed topic. Though we talk about a lot in the awareness and in our daily talk, there is a very much awareness now. The awareness of the stress, anxiety, depression, and the use of those words are very common. But beyond that, we have to discuss about the particular role in the psychophysiological aspect and how it is changing the molecular physiology and how it is actually changing the genetics. So beyond the physical stress can also be psychological or emotional stress, and the potency and pathogenicity of stress cannot be ignored. And it may increase the risk of developing neurodegenerative disorders. High levels of stress toxicity involved in stress such as trauma, abuse, physical stress, nutritional or oxidative stress, and risk factors actually contributing to the cognitive decline. So chronic exposure to the stressors can result in the assortment of the negative biomarkers, unhealthy behaviors, which suggest a dose-response relationship between severity of early adversity and inflammation. Shorter telomeres, we have read and we have explored the studies and other unhealthy biological markers as well. The effect of early life stress may be more important in advanced stage than the self-reports of the life adversity and stresses at the early stage, but chronic stress, we know that through its well-known cortisol connection, its hippocampal and limbic system toxicity and epigenetic damage is a causative factor in the development of cognitive decline and decreased well-being. Coming to full circle, and this diminishment of the well-being that we are actually expecting may lead to a loss of cognitive function, while an improvement of the well-being is actually augment cognition and prevent cognitive decline. So this is the whole cycle. Either it is the loss of cognitive function or either it is the prevention of the cognitive function. So in addition, it's now established that the negative lifestyle habits that decrease cognition and well-being are less prevalent in those individuals who are exposed to certain activities, whether the spiritual activities, whether the physical activity, whether the peaceful mind. So compelling researchers suggest that stress has a pronounced negative effect on cognition, including injuring genes by decreasing the level of enzymes like telomerase, while shorter telomeres are associated with poor immune system function, inflammation, accelerated aging. Longer telomeres and may equal a longer life, or you can say the longevity is much more common with a clear mind. So as we all know that stress is defined as the sudden, inconsistent physical, physiological, psychological, or social environmental change. So experienced by any organism, and exposure to stress during can have short or long-term effects on the experience, actually life. But when we say about brain and body, so the mechanism by which stress induces these psychological changes mainly involves the hypothalamic pituitary or adrenal axis, or you can say HP axis, that control the organism's response to the stress and regulates the certain circadian activities as well. So in response to stress, HP axis induce the release of glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids by the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary and the adrenal cortex. For instance, the activation of HP axis also stimulate the release of CRF, which is corticotropin releasing hormone from the neurons of paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus, and then in turn it stimulates the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone from the anterior pituitary, which then facilitate the cortisol or corticosterone. So this is the normal pathway. While studies have shown that the corticosterone plays a very important role in suppressing prostaglandin synthesis that modulates the immune response and exert negative feedback inhibition in hypothalamus and so on. So when we talk about the relationship between neurodegeneration and stress, so stress has been postulated as a risk factor for the neurodegeneration very, very importantly. While it is childhood stress exposure associated with the high risk of dementia or midlife work-related stress, that also increases the risk of suffering from mild cognitive impairment, dementia, even diseases like Alzheimer's. For example, if I can give you example of much common problem in Pakistan now with respect to the terrorism, with respect to such activities that happened every now and then, post-traumatic stress disorder that could increase the risk of suffering from neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's as well. Also, topathies such as progressive supranuclear palsy have been related to highly stressful events. Specifically, the topathy produce a dysfunction in the locus coeruleus and reducing norepinephrine levels, leading to the neuroinflammation. So, and causing the neurodegeneration. So on the other hand, the long-standing midlife stress is also associated with the late life increase in the CSF. And if you can say that CSF biomarkers level can be changed, for example, amyloid beta peptide 40, which is AB40, and which is an indicative of unspecific neurodegenerative processes. There are certain potential mechanisms that various our two review papers also suggested that. So if you want, we can also give you the link after the talk. That potential mechanism acting as connector between stress and neurodegeneration are related to immune system as well, and thus pro-inflammatory mediators released by brain immune cells in response to stress also compromise the function and structure of neuron, as well as increase the expression of inflammatory genes and lipid peroxidation. In addition, stress also cause glucocorticoid that interfere in the transcription, altering the cell type and gene expression. In this sense, we can say that there are certain genes also involved in the neuroinflammation that could be dysregulated and under stress condition, for example, as expressed in certain rat studies, and rats with topathy have shown that. So another mediator between stress and neurodegeneration could be tau protein, that since chronic stress involved in hyperphosphorylation and missorting synapses, so which are also the key mechanism in the brain pathology. In addition, oxidative stress is one of the most important factors. So our mitochondria is also playing the role, and it could be a mediator between stress and neurodegeneration, mainly due to the production of reactive oxygen species by mitochondria. And brain shows a high energy demand and the lack of efficient mitochondrial function, for example, mutation in the mitochondrial DNA, or you can say that the presence of reactive oxygen species or generation of reactive oxygen species may contribute to energy failure, leading to neurodegenerative diseases. So there are so many pathways proposed. Specifically, the stress induces the expression of transcription factor nuclear receptor subfamily 4 member, which is NR4A1, which could modulate mitochondrial energetic competence and promote neuronal plasticity in midlife stresses or chronic stresses. Finally, there are also epigenetic mechanisms that can influence the neuronal structure and function. For instance, the signaling pathway of fin kinase and NR2B containing N-methyl D-aspartate receptors could be impaired by early life stresses, for example, intrauterine infection, even prenatal period, maternal stress, by poor maternal and perinatal nutrition, or the mother's psychosocial stress when they conceive. So these are all alterations that can also have the effect on the cognitive health and can lead to the cognitive impairment through. It is suggested that GABAergic neurons reduction and decrease in the renin protein expression as well. So as you can see in the figure as well, that potential mechanisms are in relationship with stress and neurodegeneration. One potential other mediator can be if we talk about the Alzheimer's disease pathology as reported, progression is corticotropin releasing factor and its receptor, that is CRFR1. So CRF1 is a neuropeptide that modulates alpha secretase activity and increasing the amyloid beta production. So in addition, interference with CRFR1 could be target for Alzheimer's treatment as well, as it is suggested, and it can modify amyloid beta neuropathology. Furthermore, it is also suggested that angiotensin converting enzyme could play a role in neurodegeneration associated with Alzheimer's disease. And this enzyme is upregulated in the hippocampus after 4 weeks of chronic mild stress, together with the increase in tau phosphorylation, in addition to the inhibition by the mediator and stress. We can also say that the chronic stress also, if we talk about particularly for the Alzheimer's disease, there's replacement, repressor element silencing transcription. This is known as REST. Repressor element, one silencing transcription, which is a stress response factor, could be a good AD marker as well. So chronic stress could accelerate AD production, and Alzheimer's disease production is also dependent on certain other pathways suggested as insulin dependent pathway. So there is reported research that an increase in neuronal injury and senile plaque deposition in double transgenic for amyloid precursor protein and penicillin-1 mice under chronic stress condition can also accelerate the production. There are interestingly plasma markers like REST that levels decreased after psychological intervention in patients, as early life stresses are also reported to alter the amyloid accumulation, probably mediated by alteration in production or simply neuroinflammation. Same is for Parkinson's disease, that stressful life events in life could constitute as a risk factor in the development of Parkinson's disease. Since it is incidence increase in the population, and in Pakistan, it is now being increasingly reported, both Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So it is diagnosed with adjustment disorder and is initiated with those symptoms, but it is triggered with the stress and difficulties to coping compared to the general population, which is deprived of these incidences. So in addition, locomotor disturbances in Parkinson's disease patients were associated with emotional distress and less capacity for early life event, as you can see in the picture as well. And then there is also reported Huntington disease symptoms, and very much reported Huntington disease has also been related to stress like other neurodegenerative disorders. Actually, Huntington disease mouse model show the alteration in HPA axis activity, suggesting that cortisol could be an implicated cause to develop the pathology of Huntington disease. And another mouse model in different studies also demonstrated that chronic state could worsen the different manifestation of this disease related to the motor coordination and locomotory activity. So in sum up with that, there are certain aspects of stress and you can say pathophysiology of stress leading towards neurodegeneration, missorting synapses, cognitive impairment, neuroinflammation, and energy failure. You can see this all in the slide. Next slide, please. So this is what I have been trying to just quote about how these again proposed mechanisms are there. And if you can see in the picture, that lifestyle factors are also reportedly might hijack the microglial regulation and predispose individuals to neurodegeneration. And it is much more known that chronic adult stress or changes in diet, microbiota, or social context might predispose individual to the neurodegenerative diseases onset, and as observed by the association with neuronal loss, cognitive deficit, and Alzheimer's or certain other related pathologies. These phenotypes during aging could be influenced by changes in the individual diet pattern, and we can modify them as well, and we can slow down the progression of these diseases as well. So there are so many changes we can see and we can report in these specific, if you can completely see all of the animations, I have focused on the sleep pattern, because circadian rhythm and sleep pattern are one of the aspects of the stress, how stress causes these problems and how these problems causes stress. So these are interrelated in a very vicious cycle. So almost if an average human spend their 1/3 life sleeping. So sleeping is required to maintain normal neurocognitive immune functions. During sleep, the brain processes information, and we know that it consolidates new formed memories that promote spatial learning and clears the brain. So sleep loss might result from sleep deprived, chronic sleep restriction, or sleep fragmentation. Sleep fragmentation, you can see in the picture as well, is commonly seen in sleep disorders like obstructive sleep apnea, but it is a fragmentation of sleep. And sleep disorders and chronic sleep restrictions are also mainly caused by work, lifestyle, stresses, substance abuse, or even early aging as well. So sleep plays a very important role reported in the amyloid beta clearance, and the sleep-wake cycle can regulate your interstitial fluid and cerebrospinal fluid levels of amyloid beta. So it has been shown that amyloid beta clearance predominantly occurs during sleep, which was ascribed to the pathways where operating most efficiently during sleep. So using real-time in vivo studies, it has been reported that patrolling monocytes might crawl onto the luminal walls of blood vessels to clear and carry amyloid beta out of the brain. Interestingly, neuroimaging studies showed that short sleeping duration and poor sleep quality in cognitively healthy middle-aged and aged people are actually might be associated with higher amyloid accumulation. So as you can see in the picture, sleep loss might promote neurodegenerative functions of microglia and can be prevented by physical exercise. Forms of sleep loss include deprivations, restriction, and fragmentation could promote neurodegeneration by decreased neurogenesis and elevated stress, altered microbiome. 1 minute, please. These conditions could lead to the acquisition of certain diseases, and conversely, physical exercise, as we talk about it later as well, can reverse the procedure and can have the ability to reverse the process, because it is well known for increased neurogenesis, reduced stress, altered microbiome. I'm not talking about, and I have skipped the slides of microbiota and gut microbiota and its potential, because Dr. Yong have efficiently talked about it. So there is a lot of things that we can do. Next slide, please. So now I would like to talk more about, although there are suggestive lifestyle changes to help prevent and delay the onset of neurodegenerative disorder, there are currently no very effective treatments to halt the progression. And if we can see that there is a list of increasing anti-stress therapies and development of natural remedies, exercises, meditation, in order to restore health and energy levels in relation to neurodegeneration. A reduction in stressful conditions since childhood or your adult life could help to reduce late life dementia risk or neurodegeneration, or in fact, stress reduction could be used as a preventive therapy as well. So there are so many things that we can actually look up to, but the one is exercise. And when we talk about exercise, or you can say that exercise or physical activity, So effect of exercise on neurodegenerative diseases and mental disorders are much more reported, and there is a lot of research that actually uh, uh, actually being done. So the reduction in the dopamine and mitochondrial function has been reported, the generation of beta amyloid plaques and hippocampal atrophy, and decreases in the serotonin and noradrenaline levels. In the hippocampus, reportedly, hypothalamus, amygdala, cortex, and other parts of the brain are the primary alteration reported that may be result in Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, or even you can see the third panel in the picture as well, which is depression. So exercise training could be beneficial because neurotransmitters and neurotropic factors are synthesized in response to physical exertion. And when we do physical activity, there are so many factors that get altered, and these factors could delay of the progression of neurodegenerative diseases and mental disorders. These are all based on activities of our daily living. So exercise improves physical function and functional autonomy. You can say that chronic exercise can even result in changes in the genetic structure, such as those of telomeres in the leukocytes. An individual who practice moderate physical activity appear to have longer telomeres than sedentary individual, and those who practice exercise that is either higher or lower in the intensity. The reported result regarding whether the physical exercise enhances telomerase activity are still inconclusive, but I might say that with reported with such actually such researchers and such randomized controlled trial on different types of exercises, the things are being changing very fast. So there are evidence from animal studies as well that showed the combination of regular exercise and pharmacological treatment contributed to a greater observed increase in the expression of brain-derived neurotropic factor, mRNA in the dentate gyrus than either intervention alone. So there are certain psychotherapeutic or pharmacological treatment being done, but when done with exercise, so they improve the things a lot. So the production of BDNF and IGF-1 and VEGF is important not only for neurogenesis, we know, but also for the maintenance of the neuron and the prevention of diseases like even Parkinson's. So the neurotropic actors and others can be induced by muscle contraction, good blood flow, and they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Therefore, BDNF, IGF, and VEGF act directly on the brain structures. Moreover, one of the most important factors that we discussed earlier are the reactive oxygen species produced by the exercise that require greater antioxidant activity. So when greater antioxidant activity is there, it improves the signaling related to the DNA repair and induces the production of antioxidant enzymes as well. So altogether, aerobic exercise are known to induce proliferator activated receptor coactivator, which is known as PGC1 alpha, and a factor that stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, which is ultimately the solution. So exercise result in increased metabolism and neuronal activation in the brain, which is associated with modulation of redox sensitive signaling process and enhanced antioxidant activity. Moreover, with parallel oxidative damage repairing as well, and the processes might going on. So exercise-induced neurogenesis is also mediated with an enhanced oxidized cellular environment, the regulation of which include multiple molecular pathways. Regular exercise also known to improve the brain function, upregulation of BDNF and downstream redox signaling pathway. If regular exercise also actually improve the fight against, or you can say lessen the pathological effect of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, hypoxia related or reperfusion related injury disorders. So there is a lot to relate with the exercise, and regular physical training can also reduce the severity of several symptoms in the patients as well. If the patient has been diagnosed and they have in their earlier stages, it is being reported that symptoms related to the mental health, depression, or symptoms related to the motor or cognition or something like that, there are neurobiological hypotheses that a wide variety of types of exercises can improve mood, the movements and chronic physical exercise appears to induce neurogenesis and angiogenesis, which are important for both improving behavioral and cognitive functions, as well as improving health of the patients with these disorders. Moreover, the studies on athletes also have been done, and it shows that they have their constructive role as well, though there are certain destructive goals also reported because of the strenuous exercises, because of the wrong duration of the exercises or wrong intensities of the exercises. So there is also the whole neuroscience of exercises there, which is depending on the acute exercise mechanisms and chronic exercise mechanisms. But this is another topic. But when we talk about the brain and sports and the physical activities, it always very helpful when it is designed effectively, and it can be recommended and practiced effectively and in a very contextual manner, or you can say depending on the individuality of the brain and the body conditions of the patients, as well as the normal individuals who can tolerate. So neuroscience of exercise is a growing research area comprising of very multidisciplinary investigation, and I encourage participants as well who will be selecting their topics in future, that they must consider this area for the research as well. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, thank you. One interesting thing that I wanted to discuss about is the role of music and rhythms and vibrations related to the music. So there is a growing scientific evidence showing that brain respond to music in a very specific way. And there is a role of music therapy has emerged as a very important method in neuropsychological, cognitive, and social behavior. And the goals on the field is to prevent the symptoms like dementia and with very low cost. And it requires research, practice, education, clinical training, everything on professional standards. And there is a World Federation of Music Therapy actually. So World Federation of Music Therapy is recommending a lot of things, and there are a lot of researches going on. And those researchers are actually there to just accompany the scientists who are working. And there is an increasing recognition of potential of music to improve psychological, motor, and behavioral function in people with neurological and neurodegenerative disorders. Several researchers have also been speculated on the neural mechanisms underlying improvement in speech, motor, and memory function following music-based interventions. And these are all latest researches. Some of the proposed mechanism of the action responsible for inducing therapeutic change, priming neural networks that link music with non-music functions, such as autobiographical memory and language, the activation of mirror neuron system, auditory motor coupling, facilitation of motivation and reward, and the neuroplasticity. In short, there have been concentrated efforts to elucidate the interconnection between therapeutic context and the benefits associated with music-based interventions. So with the speculation that music is doing something or not, we have to look into detail that what is the role of music. There is a little attention directed towards the identifying what are the active ingredients of the music and what are the capacities of music that actually impinge about the mechanism that ultimately leads towards positive outcomes. So we have to look into that, because if we talk about Pakistan, we have very rich regional and local music, and we are very much people who recognize. So the same is for the Asia Pacific region. We have certain other types of music. So it is much more known that main four neurological disorders like dementia, you can say, or Parkinson's disease, or post-stroke conditions where the blood become blocked, and ischemic stroke or hemorrhagic stroke, or even the disease disorders like autism spectrum disorder, which is a wide umbrella. So it has different communication and restrictive repetitive patterns. So music is helpful in all of that. As you can see in the picture as well, say that there are 7 different capacities shown here of the music, and it is reported by scientists in a very good manner who are working on the music, that there are 7 capacities of music that are actually linking the positive outcomes and how it can be recognized, and we can take help from that capacities of music. For example, music is thought to be very engaging, and the engaging nature of music occurs at both neurological and psychological levels. So when we talk about neurological perspective, engagement to music refers to the breadth and depth of cognitive function that are activated and engaged. For example, by passive or active form of music, include attention, it including learning, it include memory, it include emotions, auditory scene analysis, planning, expectation, along with behavioral and physiological functions such as your motor responses, your breathing, your heart rate when listening to music. So these effects are reflected in the capacity of music to activate your widespread brain regions. For example, that include cortical region, obviously spanning temporal, frontal, parietal regions, and motor cortices, as well as deeper mid and hindbrain subcortical region, for example, basal ganglia and cerebellum when you are moving. So the long-term effect of music engagement on the brain include neuroplastic changes and associated with benefit to the auditory and motor functions. And these effects on the evident in both auditory and motor areas of the brain. For example, one research report that these effects evident in 2 types of both musicians, instrumentalists or singers, and non-musicians. Young musicians have been shown to perform significantly better than non-musicians on various cognitive tasks. So these young musicians have good assessing auditory, vocabulary, abstract reasoning, mathematical, and motor functions. Further, there is also 2 to 3 research by Gazer and Schloss and Slumming and certain other scientists as well, that gray matter volume in areas such as primary motor, premotor, and somatosensory areas and cerebellum have been positively correlated with musicians' expertise status. So with the highest gray matter volume observed in professional musicians, followed by young or new or immature musicians, than non-musicians. So these structural effects persist well into later life, and such that old practicing musicians have larger volume of gray matter in the left inferior frontal gyrus and compared to the that of the age-matched musicians. So this is one of the particular thing about then music is very emotional as well. The one of the capacities, the relation with the emotion. So when you talk about the most recognized capacity of music and the ability to communicate, induce, and modulate emotional states, given the music consists of abstract sound, and when you relate every emotion with the pitch, with the loudness, with the rhythm, with the psychological processing of memory, imagery, and it actually induce and increases your emotional processing. And when it increase your emotional processing, it can increase your arousal, it can increase your you can say the reward areas, reward responses. For example, there are certain elevations and changes in the autonomic responses as well. When we talk about purely psychophysiology, we do it by observing the heart rate variability, heart rate as a whole, pulse rate, galvanic response, blood pressure, body temperature, even the goosebumps or chills related to the music. Your respiratory rate changes and your respiratory depth changes are actually linked when music is emotional, and it is proving that. So that trigger the brain activity in the region that are very critical in emotional processing, such as amygdala, hippocampus, hypothalamus, ventral striatum, or nucleus accumbens. So this is much more related. And then when music related emotion inducing mechanism, it terms as episodic memory. So refers to the process by which music triggers the autobiographical memories, which are known as music evoked autobiographical memories, which are also known as memes. So these, they induce emotional state associated with the memories, and this phenomena has been observed in people with dementia as well, because we know that decline in the memory in the functional Alzheimer's disease particularly is the ability to recall autobiographical memories contributed to the loss of identity and may comprise well-being. So, however, certain types of music memory are preserved in people with Alzheimer's, including memes, which occur in people with in comparison with the healthy person. So, when we talk about that, people might with Alzheimer's disease contain more emotional content and are rated as more positive than memories evoked in silence. So emotional memory is much linked with that, and they can improve the memory and have the positive effect in these people with Alzheimer's, particularly the tendency of older adult to prioritize positive over negative information. Thus, music-induced emotions may help to reduce the symptoms such as depression, anxiety, and common in people with dementia. Then music is also physical, which is very good for us because it actually also complement the effect of exercise. So when we talk about that, an undeniable impact of music on humans is its stimulation of a spontaneous physical movement, encouraging transition from a state of stillness to motion. So even you can move your hand, or even you are walking, or even you are rhyming with and if even you are moving with your facial muscles or expression and everything, so it is some kind of physical linkage with the music. So in many culture, as our culture and different areas and different region of Pakistan, music and dance are defined by one word that encompasses both the concept. And for example, there are so many people who can do movement with the music, and so are the motor areas within the brain are automatically activated, and whatever we listen are rhythmical music. Even with no behavioral movement are generated, the physical movements are much more uh, appreciated. But when we talk about the disease, let's say Parkinson's, so effectiveness of the variety of dance interventions have been reported for the movement problems like people in Parkinson's disease. And there are so many types of dances, not in our part of the world. These kind of studies are not reported in our part of the world, but as tango and waltz and certain other type of dances are, or Irish dancing are known to improve the mobility, endurance, and balance in Parkinson's disease patient, and these are perfectly reported randomized controlled trials. Then music is also leading towards synchronization. So music permits synchronization, and synchronization is one of the element or music element that actually do synchronize singing or moving with rhythm and melody, which can promote fluency or speech and motor function. So rhythmic synchronization, which has received the most research attention in recent days, may activate several cortical and subcortical regions involving in timing. For example, cerebellum, basal ganglia, parietal cortex, prefrontal cortex, premotor cortex, and supplementary motor area. So the synchronization of bodily movement to an external beat is an instinctive human action and neural entertainment. So when we do that, there is a neural firing that coincides with the temporally predictive events such as musical rhythm. And this rhythmic neuronal firing can continue without any further input for the original rhythmic source that allow the individual to predict or anticipate when the next event or next music beat is coming. So this is all planned in the head, and we are actually planning ahead, and we are synchronizing with the. Then there are certain other, namely trainings as well, auditory motor mapping training, and there are certain trials again on this aspect and synchronization. Even on the Parkinson's disease patient, the rhythmic auditory stimulation technique is also being clinically used. So every capacity of the music is helpful in curing something. Music is also very personal. So one of the most unique aspect of music is that it has personal connection with a person. So personal association evokes And when personal association evokes, it can be related to the memory of celebrating a birthday or celebrating a graduation or romantic association with a partner. So unlimited access to the memories and unlimited association with the songs can actually have therapeutic effect on the emotional states, and it has certain kind of physiological arousal as well, physiological connection. So that's why people prefer personalized music, and that can benefit the ecological self, that is immediate sensations of one's physical condition, by reducing the pain, managing emotional state, managing stress, agitation, anxieties. And music can soothe people with dementia reportedly and reduce their level of agitation if they have been provided with the personal and then attachment kind of music. Then music is also social. People have their own meanings and enjoyable activities linked with the music. They have their pitch, rhythm of the speech. They have the connection and the presence of the people there, and they have been associated with certain kinds of social environment. Those music as well as music is persuasive, which is the capacity of music to interact with our own belief system. So this has been studied with the contemporary use of the music throughout the history, how the music has been changing, how the music has been marketed, and music practices and ritual. So culturally and ritually, we are also connected with different kinds of rhythms as well. So that is also helping to improve the neuronal activity and everything. So by this slide, I just wanted to initiate a thought process that we can also do that. Recently, one of my mentors from California was actually reporting then when they were doing these studies on mice and rats. So there are certain very important findings, and they also reported that they have identified that actually rats and mice laugh a lot, and when they laugh a lot, so at our providence of these rhythm and synchronization, so it is also increasing their brain health and everything. So this is the area which you can also actually look into, and if you can design some great studies or intervention, because as I say that in Asia Pacific region, and when we talk about particularly Pakistan, India, so we have a very rich music and cultural music and dances and everything, but we haven't done certain kind of research. We need to design randomized controlled trials, and we need to design longitudinal studies to just prove these associations. Those are there, and people are actually working, and the foundations of the researches are there. So we can do that. In my lab, we are actually doing that, and we have already planned and registered some clinical trials, and we are looking forward for the results as well. Next, please. Okay, so this is one of my favorite thing as well, which is you can say meditation, or there are types of meditation where you can say the yoga is also a type of meditation, and then you have mindfulness, and there are relaxation techniques, and there are so many techniques. So meditation, even though scientists have been investigating meditation for a long time, there has not been consensus on its definition that what is actually meditation. But there are range of possible, you can say there are range of possible meditation for a long time definitions that reflect the vast number of methods. When we talk about the Western definition, let's say, so it is much more about a self-regulatory technique that focus on maintaining your attention. However, in spiritual tradition like in Asia, we do that meditation is much more perceived as a tool of spiritual development, the growth of inner peace, the concentration, the positive emotions, love and happiness, or the reduction of the negative emotions, such as fear or anger. So in our side, we actually define the meditation like this. However, several studies integrate the both views and propose a new definition. That is, it is characterized by a group of self-regulatory techniques based on attention and awareness both. So whether the Western, whether the Eastern, the main goal is to achieve a greater rate of well-being, calmness, and awareness through the enhancement of control over neural and spiritual processes. So when we talk about mindfulness or yoga, a number of studies linked mindfulness with enhanced cognitive function and brain plasticity. For example, mindfulness practice has been shown to promote attention regulation and increase executive control of autonomic responses. So when sustained over a long period of time, the practice of mindfulness through meditation and yoga may promote durable trait-like alteration in domain general forms of cognitive control. In other words, pursuit of these contemplative practices should confer general functional enhancement beyond an improved ability to implement yoga and meditation techniques such as process-specific learning should generalize to a wider range of skills in everyday life. Alongside, positive association has been observed between mindfulness and cognitive control, whereas negative association has been found between mindfulness and mind wandering. When your mind is always wandering, so there is no focus, there is no self-control, there is no cognitive control. So theorists suggest that lasting functional improvement may derive from mindfulness-induced neuroplasticity in brain region that actually responsible to save the basic cognitive processes or complement the basic cognitive processes. And these practices designed to cultivate mindfulness, such as yoga, may operate through a fundamental state by trait interaction, such as repeated activation of mindful state. And you can control your neural network that actually are very reflective of practices, may leave you long-lasting psychobiological traces that accumulate durable changes. So these changes may be mediated by experience, long-lasting or repeatedly doing, and resulting in neuroplasticity. In support of such hypothesis, number of studies actually have done and have been proved by morphometry and identified the significant differences in the gray matter concentration between long-term mindfulness practitioner and controls. Moreover, recent longitudinal research subjects that participating in 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation training is associated with increase in gray matter density in the left hippocampus, posterior cingulate gyrus, temporoparietal junction, brain structures related to the cognitive processing like memory and attention. So theoretically, such neuroplastic changes in brain structure arises from recurrent activation of corresponding functional networks, and repeated practice by mindfulness help that. So yoga meditation also proved to be very reliable in inducing brain plasticity, and these meditative practices may hold promising results as means of neurocognitive rehabilitation or clinical population suffering from cognitive failure like lapses in attention, absent-mindedness, or other executive function impairment. There are some very big studies also that studied the role of effect of mindfulness on the thickness of prefrontal cortex. That is actually they proved was surprisingly in the older participants. And it suggested that the meditation can have a compensatory effect as well. For example, the decrease of cortical thickness related to aging, the increased cortical thickness found in meditators can be explained by several mechanisms like neuronal arborization, multiplication of glial cells, formation of vessels, and this also implies the meditation could potentially lead to neuroprotective mechanisms, and how meditation can also be very much particular about the several mechanisms. So there are things that also complement these researches, and when we talk about specifically yoga and meditation. So it is a lot of literature that actually shows that um, it is much more our therapy, and it is much more our key towards the behavioral interventions use, because behavioral interventions like yoga may hold promise to mitigate age-related and neurodegenerative declines. And systematic randomized trials of yoga have been reported uh, such intervention as well. But as I say that we are still working on different types of yoga. Like in my lab, we are working on different types of yoga, different types of exercises, and in nature, in open environment, in the closed environment, in the presence of audio visual, and how we can promote those specific poses, and how we can reduce the stress by this, and then measuring certain biomarkers, that how it is impacting your stress level and how it is relieving your stress level, and in the healthy population as well as in the stressed population. So there are so many trials have been going on. Yoga is one of the most popular complementary health approach also recently. So it is also reported as doing certain neurogenesis and angiogenesis, and promoting the protocols. Those protocols are actually enhancing the cognitive abilities, reducing the stress hormones, and increasing the stem cell trafficking. There are a lot of studies. You can also browse the recent studies. But the point is that where we stand and what we are actually doing to facilitate such kind of researches. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, so my presentation and my slides are almost completed. The main message was to just know the association, because there are so many researchers, and I have a whole project by Higher Education Commission Pakistan that we have concluded that how stress is leading towards neurodegeneration in Pakistani population, and we have published various papers on that, that how it is changing our galvanic responses, how it is changing our heart rate, how it is changing our biomarkers, and how those biomarkers are actually bad for certain biomarkers are very bad for our neuronal integrity and our brain integrity. And if the neurotropic factors are not there for the repair, so obviously our brain are declining. So my cognitive impairment is there. We are actually on the path of cognitive decline in a very earlier age. And then there are also certain researches in our lab where we are studying the healthy aging. So when we look into the healthy aging, we are actually having accelerated aging in Pakistan in a very young population. Why? Because of these daily stressors. So actually stressors are there to just kickstart these whole processes. So when if we can use certain interventions and such interventions, not only to manage the people who are in their early stages of these neurodegenerative progressives or slow progressive disorders, but we can change the lifestyle. I didn't talk about the nutritional aspect because of Dr. Young's talk, but I'm very much interested in changing that particular profile, the nutritional profile, what we have. So there are so many things. With respect to one of our research, we also identified that there are 7 different types of stresses in Pakistani population. So whether it is a kind of physical stress that is due to increased BMI, or the pain, fatigue, and certain exertions and exhaustions or poor cardio health, or whether it is emotional stress due to certain hormonal influences or expectations, or there are certain nutritional stresses because of the malnutrition or overnutrition of certain things, or dehydration, or chemical stress due to increased nicotine or caffeine or certain other substances, or whether it is psychosocial stress, that is actually the environmental stress, and that is the main cause of these stresses. So there are 7 different types of stresses which Pakistani population is exposed to. Same, I think, in the various part of the world, but in this part of the world, we are suggesting that with 63% of the youth in our part of the in our country, we are actually looking forward to 63% of the older people in the next 20 years. So we are actually concerned about these disorders more. It is increasing the burden on our healthcare system, and there are actually, as I was talking to Dr. Nasir Azaiwan, that we have very less number of experts related to the clinical point of view as well. So we cannot tolerate this whole brain drain and the disease burden. So we have to break the cycle, and for that, such interventions can be used in the early life and the adult adolescence age. Colleges and universities can play a lot of role in breaking this cycle, and even the families. The good parenting is that we have to change our lifestyles. Moreover, there are certain simple things that you can do. Even if you are sitting in the office for the long hours, you must know certain relaxation techniques, that how you can relax yourself, how you can relax your muscle, how you can contract your muscle, how you can increase your blood flow, how you can actually increase the oxygen level to the brain. So there are certain deep breathing exercises that you can actually practice. Then there are certain things that people cannot do, actually, that to filter the information. We don't need to hold the phone every time, even we are doing something peaceful or good for the mind, because we are feeding that brain with all the filtered and non-filtered noises. So you need to be relaxed, and you need to be very encouraging towards the me movement, where you are not using something or where you are not receiving something. So this is also very important, and studies have actually supporting that. Moreover, for keeping our brain in shape, we have to move. And if you are sitting since morning, so you can just stand up and do these 2 movements. So if it is much more helpful to increase the blood flow in the brain. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this. But there is a lot to discuss, and this is one of the aspects of well-being that I wanted to discuss. Devesh is asking the question as well. Yes, Devesh, actually, these non-pharmacological interventions are much more popular. And when we talk about our field, which is psychophysiology, we have so much strong protocols, and we are actually doing randomized control trial, and there are so many trials. For example, for a single symptom, we are actually looking forward for the whole protocol, but it is very much important that we have to select the specific biomarkers. Number one, what you have to study before and after the intervention use. What are your control groups, and what you have to compare, first of all. And then if you are doing it in human or animal, both, there are certain instruments that are giving you the empowerment to do such researches both in animals and humans. So animal trials various time did not get replicated in the human. So it is much more preferable. If it is easy to go through, you can do. Now, there are certain other questions. Devesh, maybe some answers are there. So Rushda is asking, Rushda, you are very specific related to, thank you for the laughter therapy. But yes, Rushda, laughter therapy is of so much use for improving not only the mental health, but reducing the stress as well. And no, there is no research related to laughter therapy. And you can start the research on the laughter therapy as well. Any research about the laughter therapy, about its effectiveness or efficacy, uh, Devesh, and for you and Devesh both, the answer is that we have to do the efficacy and you can say efficacy study and effectiveness as well. So we have to see that whether the type of therapy, the duration of therapy is specific for certain specific individual. So there are so many interventions, and even clinicaltrial.gov, if you go there and you can look for certain trials, there are registered trials, and these trials are going on. So we can also develop such kind of trials, because these are the traditional therapies and they are known to the traditional therapies, people are not actually reporting their actual figures and numbers and scientific numbers, and scientific reports are not there. So first we have to register those studies to look for what kind of exercise, what type of laughter therapy, what intensity of laughter therapy, what duration of laughter therapy, what duration of exercise is particular for this set of individuals. Same is the answer for whoever is asking for the music therapy. So last year we have done one research on the calming music, and it was very calming, soothing music of raining, and also the water flowing from a river, and something like that, some those sounds. But actually, some of the participants never liked those sounds, and they have negative impact on of those things on their mood and EEG. We were recording the EEG. So there are certain pros and cons, but there are no harm in these therapies to use. And just, but we have to do the reliability studies. We have to do the efficacy studies. Tai Tran is asking that this is the first time I hear about yoga practice in academic angle, so we can consider it as a mental agitation method. And here we state the role of meditation. There are so many definitions, as I mentioned, that of meditation. So the type of meditation, one of the type is you can say yoga. But again, when we see or define the yoga with perspective of exercise, so there are so many other types of yoga as well, which are actually like in our lab, we are doing the cat-cow yoga for the back pain. So it is a totally different kind. It is not about the meditation and mindfulness and focusing, but it is more about the physical effort. So yoga is more considered in different types, because yoga have different types. So it is considered in meditation in certain poses, but certain other poses of yoga are much more related to the physical effort, physical activity or exercise. And I have also shared my email ID with you, and all of you might have my email ID. So you can also email me your questions. Rushda is also asking, what about the Rushda? Again, I have the same answer. You have to literate. There is one in our lab group. What we do actually, we actually consult with those professors internationally as well who are doing those trials, and we look for their literature as well, and we see the exclusion and inclusion criteria, and then we have to decide. For example, recently we are working on the post-traumatic growth. Now, what is post-traumatic growth? Post-traumatic growth is that who is achieving resilience after trauma and in what duration, and what is helping them. So we are working on several interventions that people who have been exposed to trauma and are in traumatic stress. So what interventions are helping? So we are using multiple intervention, and we have designed the trial. If you can search our name, my name even, so clinical trial might give the one or two protocols as well. So we are also publishing those protocols because it is our copyright, so that we are publishing those protocol as well. So selection criteria can be different with different particular condition that you are treating, whether it is migraine, whether it is tension type headache, whether it is a simple you are saying that it is a physical stress, or whether you are saying that it is only for the relaxation of the back pain from sitting long hours in the office. So you have to select first the criteria, and for that selecting criteria, you have to read certain randomized control trials and trials on that specific. Then the part of the protocol which is much more important is the prevalence, incidence, and the cause of the disease as well. So you have to review the literature related to that as well. That on what criteria you are selecting the subjects. Are they normal subjects or are they patients? If they are patients, so what criteria for diagnosing that particular problem you are saying? For example, if I'm dealing with the anxiety disorder, so I might look for the DSM criteria for the anxiety disorders. So selection criteria can be different for different people. For example, if you are going for Alzheimer's, I might use MMSE. So there are different types of criteria if you are selecting the subject for your study, and if you are selecting the intervention for the study, you have to go through the efficacy. I am again saying that specific word, efficacy studies of that particular intervention globally. You have to search for the literature.
We are going for an hour break now, and after the break, we'll bring you in touch and make lab tutorials. So stay tuned for the upcoming lab in attention.